AudioLab devlog number 7. A lot of stuff has happened, and I have a huge amount of notes for this, so we'll see if that translates into a very long video. It might. So my focus for the last 3 weeks has been to get this synthesizer to feature completeness for my basic feature set for using it for sound effects, and ideally for music instrument samples too. I've barely touched the sequencer screen. I made a few minor changes here, but I probably won't talk about them. They're minor enough. So that group project that I mentioned last time did not end up happening, at least not the way that I expected it to. So that is a significant change in plans. That means I'm still free to focus on this and the things I was doing. But that did help bring into focus the things that I need to do with this and like where I want to be with everything. I'm going to have sort of a close look at where I am just in terms of game development in general at the end of this. But let's go through features of this first. So basically just do a change log. So I was talking before about the layered view for the wave here. It's built out a lot better now. So here's a sine layer. Oh geez, that's so loud. That's fine. Okay, right, so let's change that back to sine. I'll add that, make that partially square. I'm going to make you a little quieter and shorter. You're just too long. There, that gets the point across. So anyway, that's wave shape. If I add another and make it like a triangle, you know, we went through this exercise before. Now I can change the weighting or blending, or my term for this is not currently consistent. I might change it around a little bit. So like I can turn the influence of the triangle wave all the way down to 0 or all the way up to 1 or beyond if I want to. I can overdrive it. So now there's twice as much triangle in that as the other things, but like, you know, 100 times as much if I want. It's almost entirely a triangle. You can just see a tiny little bit of sine and pulse in there. Anyway, so you know, if I turn the pulse influence down, it does that. If I turn the sine influence down, it does that. I can mute these, which is the same as just turning the weight all the way down, but it's just kind of a quicker, more convenient way to do it. Or I can solo them. Whenever I click solo, it goes into a mode where this is, it doesn't matter what's muted over here or whether this is muted, that's the only one that'll come through. And this concept, you'll see it in a lot of audio and video productivity applications. Just, I borrowed it from other things I'd seen, and it's real handy. Anyway, so you'll see this show up in a bunch of different places. I can change the blend mode here if I want. Add, that's going to be very loud. Everything is so loud right now. So that just adds and, you know, can go out of bounds and stuff for the wave. Multiply is real interesting. Let's reset this. I had a fascinating arithmetic adventure just yesterday and today, trying to figure out what it meant to have two things multiplying their results together, but being able to change the amount of influence that has on the output. Working on writing a forum post to describe how I did this. Like, originally this was an order-dependent thing. Like, if I turned the weight of this one all the way down to 0, I'd start with a sample of 0 and multiply everything with 0, because this is multiply mode, and just end up with an output of 0. But what I actually wanted was something a little different from that. It's not simple to explain, but I got it working the way that I want, I think. Let's make this a pulse wave. So, you know, that makes that thing that we've seen before, and I can just turn up or down the influence. This is just real fun to do and watch and see what it does. Isn't that wild? That's fun. You know, I can add another one. I don't even know if this operation is useful, like being able to multiply together wave shapes, but it's interesting. You know, make some cool shapes of this. I think the math is slightly wrong when more than one weight is less than 1 right now, but it's close enough for what I need, I think. Yeah, so turning that down to 0 is the same as muting it. Anyway, yeah, so this is what I was spending my time on the last couple of days. Another thing I have here, I can copy this and paste there. So basically I have now a sine and two pulses, which means nothing for multiply, right? This one's Ooh, is that... Yeah, that makes sense. No, that does affect things. Anyway, yeah, so, or I could just, like, copy the properties of this and just stick them here. And now that's just a pulse wave. Man, sorry for making that noise so much. I should really turn this down. Or, like, choose a different default something. I don't know. There. When I'm working with audio, you know, sometimes noises will be unpleasant. I can turn it down in a video or something if it's too bad. Anyway, so I also added layered. Let's just reset this here. Sine wave is nice enough to work with. So let's do a layered frequency curve. This one's fun. There are different blend modes available here. There's min and max instead of multiply. So, you know, like if I have a ramp, you know, we're familiar with that at this point. But like if I add a ramp and then a stair step, I also added this thing to my stair step UI where I can have it repeat its steps as many times as I want, or like start at a certain step index. Let's see, how will I demonstrate this? Okay, so first I want my ramp to go downward and the staircase to go upward. So that's fun. You know, I can make this shorter. And all sorts of fun stuff can be done with this. Let's say I were to add another step here. This UI is still real bad. I don't like it. Let's have that one go negative a little bit. And a shorter duration. I think that's too negative. So let's say the ramp were to go upward again. And I would set this to repeat start at step 1. So basically it did the first stair step, the upward one, then repeated the second one infinitely at the end. So it goes up once and then down all the number of times. You know, you can see what it does. So I think that's super cool. And I can change this to min. So yeah, since the stair step goes down a little bit, it... yeah, so this again, like multiplication, this was wild to figure out how to get right. But I got it. I got it to do what I wanted to. Yeah, so that's just taking the minimum frequency between these two curves, and that's what the output is. But if I turn the influence of the ramp down to 0, then, you know, it's just what the stair step is. If I set it to maximum, it's mostly the ramp because the stair step goes mostly down. If the stair step doesn't influence at all, that little bump doesn't exist. Or this. This is such a fun toy. Sometimes I come here just to mess around with it and play with it because it's so cool. Let's reset that again. And then I also have the same thing, of course, for Amplitude, which again has different blend modes on it. So if we do an ADSR and let's say pulse, so those are combining together. Let's set this instead of average to min or to max. So you can see the pulse and the ADSR interact in different ways there. You know, it's the same weighting thing as everything else. It looks so smooth and easy. This was anything but smooth and easy to get right. Man, this was like a multi-day arithmetic journey to figure out what it took to do that. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun. And I put together a little sample here that just sort of combines all of those in interesting ways to make a complicated sound. So we got basically what I was looking at there. Min with ADSR and pulse. Then several layers here. Oh, and just 2. Okay. Yeah, just stair step with... Okay, repeat starts at 3, repeats infinitely, so it looks like it goes up, then down a little bit, then up, then down up, repeating those 2 forever. And also with a ramp with a different onset. Yeah, so I can change the onset of... Okay, this is just a curved, no linear change. You can see what it's doing in the graph here. So, you know, it just doesn't start curving until that point. Or I can make it end curving at a different point. So sudden upward curve and then stop if I want. Fun stuff. And what's my wave? Sawtooth. Okay, so that mode is add. This mode is average. So just sawtooth, half a triangle, add a frequency offset slightly, and little more than 4/5 of a sine at that frequency offset. Oh, did I talk about those? I don't think I did. Right, so I can now, with layers here, maybe this is the more interesting use case for this. If I set this to a frequency offset, I can basically do what that overtones thing did, just built into the layered sine wave generator, so you can see what it's doing over there. It's fun. Phase offset just sort of applies a horizontal offset to that, so just that's the start point. So this would be an alternate way to make this sound that I showed last time. Oh yeah, and I have this little track selector here. I changed my terminology. I use the word layer for everything that involves like these. So those are layers. These are tracks. Okay, yeah, and another fun thing that I did, I now have a BFXer style track timeline editor. So this is going to mess up the sound, but that's fine. So I can make the different harmonics of that start at a different point. So yeah, just having a visual editor for this is so much nicer than messing with the offset slider. And you know, I can still mess with the offset slider if I want. See, here I'm using the word blend to mean the same thing as weight over here. I think I want blend everywhere, because technically it's not a weight, it's a different sort of thing. And you know, I can do the same mute solo thing here as everywhere else. And it works great. All of this stuff. Real happy with where I am with all that. Okay, back to the change log. What else did I do? All sorts of stuff. So that's a timeline view. That's the layers here, here, and here. This is not visible in this program, but it was a very important thing to do. I separated all of the synthesis code from AudioLab's source code itself. So this is basically, this is the AudioLab source code. This is pretty much just the UI that interacts with the underlying synthesizer. The synthesizer itself is now in a library called AudioSynth, and that actually has all of the Amplitude envelope implementations, you know, the underlying math, the SFXer implementation, frequency curve, wave sampler, the instrument stuff, the music sequencer, non-UI code. Anyway, yeah, so that means that this is now prepared to be imported into a project like Foresight Fight, where I could just take, for example, the sample files I've been looking at here, which are tiny. Oh, I'll show this in a moment. But yeah, this is a JSON file. I can also, I can't do it. I don't have this exposed through UI yet here, but I have all the code for it to, oh wait, well I kind of do. So I have all the code to serialize this to binary. I can actually do that. Okay, so this thing. Sure, like, I can show what this is like serialized to binary, kind of. If I press the copy button, that puts it on my clipboard in base 64 format. So that's 348 characters. So 348 bytes in base 64, which is a lot larger than binary actually is. I guess on average it's like 4 times as large. Base 64 versus 256. Is that how that works? Doesn't base 64 use... So if each of these is 64, I thought like 3 of these was 1 byte, so 3 times something. Anyway, so a very small number of bytes can represent a synthesized thing much, much smaller than like if I'd export this to an OGG or a WAV or something. And you know, that would change depending on the length, of course. You know, without changing the byte count of the synthesizer spec, I can do stuff like this and make that longer. Oh right, I can drag outside this window if I want to. I'll do something about that someday. Anyway, yeah, so the point of what I was saying was that I have a library that could load this in JSON or in binary or whatever, a very tiny file, and at startup time, turn that into audio that could be played, or in real time when I actually play the audio. Either way, depends whether I want to spend CPU or memory or disk space. You know, it's kind of a trade-off between the 3. I have 3 different options here. So the disk space, so optimizing for CPU would be loading an exported OGG Vorbis file or WAV or something. Optimizing for memory at the cost of CPU would be to run this in real time whenever I actually play the audio sample. Optimizing for CPU, no, sorry. Right, optimizing for real-time CPU at the cost of memory would be to synthesize this at startup and just keep in memory the basically wave file, the PCM waveform of that at startup. So, I have options, and I can put these in with an executable file. I just like things to be really small, It's satisfying if I could say, like, distribute a game that's like, 2 megabytes zipped. And just because all of my assets are so tiny, and they just inflate themselves at runtime because they're mathematical descriptions of themselves instead of big blobs of data that literally describe what they are. Anyway, so that's fun. And yeah, so basically, like, I could have used this right now for Foresight Fight and just export OGs and load those in there. I don't have a good way to open an OG and show it. One feature I'd kind of like to do this. So, this is screen 1, this is screen 2. I press the 1, 2, and 3 keys on my keyboard to switch between these. That's what I'm doing when I do that. I want a screen 4 that would actually just be able to open like an OG or a wave or maybe even an MP3 if I could figure out how to load and save those. Those have some license encumbrance though, so that might not be trivial. Depends. I could talk to FFmpeg or something as a, So yeah, have an actual audio waveform viewer just for arbitrary audio files here. And I'd also like to be able to put in an overlay on this of like a loaded file. I want to do this for like taking apart recorded instruments and figuring out how to synthesize something that sounds similar to that. Speaking of things that sound similar, let me show you some of my sample files that I've made. Just like doodling around, like I hear a sound in the world and think, hey, how would I do that with my synthesizer? So there was some construction near my house and a truck was backing up, and then I ended up with this. So, that's what it sounds like when a big truck backs up. It repeats a few times. It just has the one sample there. How did I do this actually? This is triangle. Wait, really? That's all it is? Why does it look like it has this secondary thingy on it? Okay, so that's 1300 hertz apparently. Oh, because it ramps slightly, just a tiny bit down. That sounds kind of right like that. But the way I perceive that is maybe it's Doppler effect or something. I perceive that pitching down just a tiny little bit. Anyway, and then I decided to make a car horn for some reason. I don't know. This one was a pretty simple, just 2 tracks of sawtooth. Ooh, my blend is set to that. Okay, this could have also been done. I think this was before I had the layered thingy here. What are the frequencies? 431, I was just kind of eyeballing this and putting it together. So 431 and, ooh, that doesn't stick. 351. Yeah, of course that doesn't stick. Okay, so I'd have to change that back to hertz. Anyway, yeah, so that was just a hastily assembled thing. Like, what if I combine 2 sawtooths at frequencies that I just choose by ear? Well, I guess I wasn't eyeballing it, I was hearing it. And could I get it to sound like a car horn? Turns out, yes. Pretty simple. Rather unpleasant sound. A lot of these are. And then, right, I showed this thing. Whoa, why did you crash? Ooh. I loaded that earlier and it didn't crash. That's fascinating. So that loads fine. If I load the car horn, and then I load this, I have a hunch. So I'll load the car horn. Switch to track 2. Right, yeah, this selector is just equivalent to coming in here and clicking on that. It loads the... I don't have a great demonstration of this. I guess the best one would be the harmonic sawtooth thingy. But these all look mostly the same. Well, not exactly. Okay, so main frequency is 4 to 20 hertz, has this ADSR envelope on it. Then I go up, and was that updating this window? It was. Okay, yeah, so that selects those in both places. Anyway, yeah, so this is just a handy shortcut for changing tracks for editing here. This always shows the fully combined waveform, which is the same as clicking one of these, or clicking one of, oh, I have to click on one of those. I can't click outside. I should change that. I should be able to click here to select this track. That would be nice. Anyway, so So right, my hunch was if I select a track other than 0... Ooh. Down arrow goes to the 1 out of 3 if I go up. That should be the other way around. So 1 out of 3 up should go to 2, probably. Oh, but it doesn't because this is in top to bottom order. So I wanted it to match spatially with that. Okay, so if you're at 1 and you click down, then it goes to 2. Yeah, I don't know. I could see arguments both ways. But I did just confuse myself with it there. Okay, so if I'm not on track 0 or 1, depending on how you want to index it, and then I load... Was it this? Yeah, that's when it crashes. Okay, I'm pretty sure I know why that is. Just a simple, like, didn't reset the index, and then I'm trying to index out of bounds for a file that has only one actual track on it. That's probably all that is. Easily fixed. Anyway, anything else to show here? Right, I have 2 different snare drums. I have that, and I have this. One with pink noise, one with white noise. I have a pink noise generator here now. That was another thing I didn't mention. This is white, this is pink. They're a little different. I'm not going to explain the difference. You can look it up if you want to. And also, I would do a super bad job at explaining it because I barely understand it myself. Just has to do with the frequencies that are combined and what their amplitudes are. This is actually just the... I'm sure there are different ways to generate it. This is just the BFXer pink noise generator algorithm. So like white, pink, it's the same thing. White, pink. Anyway, oh, I have a new frequency curve and amplitude envelope that I should show for that too. Am I done showing samples? I think I am. Yeah, so I think this is a reasonably convincing snare drum. Not necessarily reasonably convincing, but you can tell what it's supposed to be. This one less so. I didn't like it as much with pink noise, but I don't know. I could find a use for that. Anyway, right, so the new ones of these that I implemented, I learned what vibrato and tremolo mean and what the difference is. They're the same concept, but one applies to amplitude, one applies to frequency. At least that's my current understanding. It's possible I have this wrong. The default for this does nothing. Maybe I should change that. But so, you know, this just goes up and down like that. Can change the speed, change the phase to have it start at a different point if I want. So that's fun. And then same concept for amplitude. You're so loud. That's fine. I can make you less so. You know, obvious enough. But fun to have as a tool in my toolbox. All right, did I get through my whole changelog? Anything I'm missing? Yes, I am missing things. I also have now... okay, I'm tempted to do this. Let's do it with a sawtooth wave. It'll be a little less unpleasant than square wave. So I had this low-pass filter that I could apply to this. It'll smooth that out a little bit. I also have 2 new filter types now, which are Bit Crush. I was kind of doing this for feature parity with BFXer. Basically just lowers the numeric resolution vertically of the sound, or horizontally if you want. So it's without actually changing the bit depth or sample rate. It's like changing those things. I'm going to delete this. I don't have a delete button. I just have to press the delete key, which is fine. And I also have distortion, which is something that's built into this wave sampler. Oh, right. I have this weird thing going on. Okay, so distortion basically just... why did I do that? It's basically just amplification with clipping, or I can make it clip at less than full range, which has a different effect. So yeah, this is actually something that's built into this sine plus overtones, this weird bucket of features that's completely different from all these other wave samplers. I don't know what to do with this, but it's, I don't know, it's handy for some things. I'm going to reset this actually. There's also another filter to look at there that I'll get to. Yeah, so this has distortion, which is just the amplitude with clipping version of that. But since this is done at the wave level instead of the at the wave sampler level rather than the, what do you call it, like the entire synthesized sound level, I still get this cutoff shape down here in the quieter part and up here in the louder part. So like I need to be able to apply this differently for the same effect. They do different things. I'm thinking maybe I just need a way to, yeah, that's right, that's what I was thinking. So like in addition to the layered wave shape type, I'm thinking I could also have a filtered one that would take like a sine wave here, or I guess I could just stick it in layered and apply, does it need to be hierarchical? Because I want to be able to have like some layers with signal filter applied, some without. Anyway, yeah, so if I do that at the wave level, then I'd get, it wouldn't interact with the, or would interact with the amplitude envelope in a good way. Anyway, so then I also have, yeah, so that's something for me to figure out. Getting close. That's one thing that's missing from feature completeness here, but it's close-ish. Maybe I would also want to apply it to the amplitude or the frequency curve. You know, I could put a low-pass filter on this and see what it does to the amplitude. That's a valid mathematical thing I could do. Yeah. So that's legitimate. Yeah, so all of these layered things should just also let me apply filters at each level. I don't know how I'll do the UI for that, but I'll figure it out somehow. And I have a delay filter. Oh, right. This is kind of weird. This is an inconsistency. Like I can select that, but there's no filter there. And I can add one. So yeah, you know, it's a delay. Pretty simple sort of thing. Like a sort of echo effect kind of thing. Can change the interval, make it quicker. Can barely hear it happening there, but it's a little bit echoey. Fall off. Okay, so higher fall off means it falls off less, kinda. Yeah, okay, I can hear what's going on there. Different numbers of repetitions here. This will be more obvious with the higher fall off thing. This ends at, is that what I expect? Shouldn't that end at 0? Oh, I just hadn't scrolled over far enough. That's what happened. My thing was, you know. Yeah, so it's a delay filter. Perfectly usable. Might get some kind of actual reverb in here at some point. But anyway, so those are the things I added. Okay, anything else on my changelog? All right, I think that actually covers everything on my changelog that's worth talking about. Again, there was some very minor stuff over here. I think what I did, I think the only thing I did here was that I made this view sort by the order that the notes are in the thing. Like I added this first, then this, but then when I select that, I get the E4 in the middle here, where it should be. That's the only change here. Anyway, yeah, so, oh, right, and I updated this UI a little bit. Oh, crashes. Fun. Okay, well, got a problem here. Doesn't crash now. That might have been one of those multi-track sort of things again. All right, so another crash to investigate. Anyway, yeah, this lets me go by hertz or not, and actually edit that by text if I want to. Right. Anyway, it's just a minor update there. Yeah, and all these copy-paste buttons. I showed what those do, right? I did. So, like, I can copy this, reset. Oh, wait, right. That's just... I keep getting confused. I should move these parameters somewhere else somehow, because I get confused at these... Because they're in the same place as, like... where things that do affect the output would be. So, like, if I press copy here, and reset, and then press paste, it just pastes that individual part of the synthesizer without the entire package of everything. Or I can do that too. This will look the same because I didn't change those, but you know, that's what it's doing. Anyway, yeah, so talking about the future a little more, I fell into a trap. I mentioned, after I showed the composition that I'd made with this, that the next one of those I did would be on video. That was a huge mistake to say that, because what that ended up doing was I never wrote another composition with this. I have been focusing entirely on the synthesizer, but that's part of the reason. Because like that puts so much pressure on me to be able to show my creative process and be like super ready to do it that way, that just no composition happened. So I'm rescinding that right now. I'm going to mess with this tool and get it polished up a little more before I'm ready to actually show the full process of using it, because I need some alone time to be able to do that and get the kinks worked out a little bit. More of like my own process than what the tool does. Like I'd be happy to show what the tool does, but it's my creative process that's not ready to show itself. So it needs to stay hidden and develop a little more, then I'll be ready to do that. So someday I'll definitely want to show composing a thing with this tool, but I need the freedom to do it on my own. So that's what's happening with that. So future of this project. Again, I was trying to get this to feature completeness. I'm a little short. I was talking about this whole filtering at the wave level thing that I want to do still. What else is missing? I was looking at feature parity with SFXer here. Things I don't have. Punch. That's just part of an amplitude envelope thing. It's like after attack, this extra amplification. That's what it does. Very simple. I could just add it to my ADSR envelope. Make it an ADSRP. Or APDSR, I guess it would be. I have base freak. I don't have freak limit. What does that actually do? So like if I turn up the ramp and then I limit it, like it just stops at some point. What does that mean? What if my ramp goes downward? So that cuts it off if it goes below a certain level. I don't think I need this. Well, but what I wanted to be able to do was to take a BFXer sound and basically paste it into my synthesizer, to use that as a base and translate all of these parameters into the equivalent in my system. Mostly I want to do this so that I can use this synthesizer code that I'm optimizing my own way, rather than SFXer's synthesizer code when I go to load the sound at runtime in the projects that use it. And, you know, get my all of my the SFXer sounds that I have saved away for various... Oh boy, do I have this here? I do. Sounds... Like this old thing. That's a sound that's used in a game called Convergence. That's there's a video of it on this channel somewhere a while back, or you can download it on my website and play it yourself if you want. I think it still works on modern computers. It needs an update. Anyway, yeah, so I'd like to be able to load those, and I have basically the equivalent BFXer instead for Foresight Fight in here. We've looked at this plenty a while back, like Cat Spell, sure. So I'd like to have that, something that produces this waveform. Since I'm pretty close to feature parity here, let's see, this uses sine wave, attack, sustain, delay, no punch. Base freak, no freak limit, freak ramp, freak dramp, square duty. It does have a square duty ramp on it, so this is one feature that I'm missing. I just implemented vibrato, so I do have that. Vib delay does literally nothing. This is a parameter in SFXer, but it's not even used in the calculations. I should just remove the slider then, because it's in the file format. It's in the original code. It doesn't do anything. I have the SFXer low pass and high pass algorithm, so all of this is there. I don't have a phaser or flanger or whatever you want to call it. I don't actually understand what this does. Ooh, I can tell this one takes a moment to calculate. Look at that. This is why I multi-threaded my audio synthesis. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, I think my synthesizer is better optimized than the BFXer implementation that I'm using. The BFXer implementation I'm using might not be very good. It was my own port from ActionScript. So I may have introduced some inefficiencies into that. But yeah, I want fuller control over that than using BFXer. Phaser ramp, yeah, that's just part of the phaser. Yeah, I don't quite understand how this works, but it should be simple to implement once I do. Repeat speed, ARP mod, this is all like frequency curve stair step stuff. That's there. Volume, yep, obvious. Compression, I think I have that with my distortion filter. Yeah, that does the... Oh, no, that does something different. That's stretching... I'll have to look into what this is. This is not distortion. Right, compression. That's different. That's like curved distortion, kinda. Like the sine wave equivalent of the square wave of distortion that I have. I think? Maybe? I'll look into it. Okay, so I don't have compression. I don't have harmonics. I kinda do, but not in the same sense that this does it. But like, I understand the concept, and I can certainly slot that in. Harmonics fall off. Well, again, familiar concept, but I don't actually have. This is, again, frequency curves, stair-step stuff, so I have all that. I have the bit crush signal filter that I just showed. That was the reason that I implemented it. Ooh, I don't have bit crush ramp. So these ramps, right, what I was talking about, a major feature that I want to get in here somehow is I'd like to be able to sort of like automate these sliders. Like, let's say square duty. I have square duty. Let's make that sound again. But I don't have the duty ramp. Like, basically that would slide this slider from one spot to the other while the sound is being synthesized. Like, there's my reset button. There it is. It's in a different place here than it is on this screen. Yeah, whatever. That's fine. So yeah, you know, we know what duty does. Where is it? There. But then duty ramp just varies that parameter over time. So I was thinking, rather than just implement this as part of my wave sampler, which I could do, but that would be less general than... I feel like it'd be neat to be able to take any one of these sliders and like bind it to some kind of control track sort of thing, like at the same level as filters. I'd say like, here's a controller that's bound to this property of the wave, and it will curve from, you know, 0.25 to 0.5 over the course of the sample. And then that would just automatically like move that slider or the equivalent in the synthesizer to do the thing with it. And that would generalize to basically all of these sliders. And I think that'd be neat. That'd be a good way to implement the square duty ramp, bit crush ramp, harmonics fall off, HPF ramp, LPF ramp. I actually don't have those in my my filter. I have resonance, frequency, and frequency, low and high, but I don't have the ramps. Fa ramp, yeah. So that'd be nice. And you know, you could do more than just ramp. You could have, once again, layering on these concepts, have it go like up and down in a sine wave or a triangle wave or whatever you want. So just one more place to put a wave function in and have it affect the output at a different level. So I think that'd be a good thing to have. I think that is absolutely worth investigating. Pretty sure I want to do it. I don't think there's going to be any major obstacles to that, but it is a significant amount of engineering effort. Like, I'm going to have to spend probably around a week on that, I would imagine. Maybe a little less if I'm lucky. Anyway, yeah, so those last few changes, other stuff I need to release this project. I do want to release this publicly. I want to make it available to people in several different forms, ideally. I'm thinking, like, I haven't yet found the time to look into Mscripton or other ways to build this for WebAssembly. I'd love to have just a web page that anybody could go to and play with this without having to download an executable. As well as an executable you could download. I guess I would also want the library version available. Ooh, boy, that complicates things. But yeah, if you want to use the API like I was talking about, just synthesize these at runtime from this kind... where am I? somewhere else. AudioLab samples from these files. Honk. Instead of exporting OGs and loading those, and what that. And certainly would like to be able to just build from source. Ideally, download a zip file full of source code, unzip it, type make in a console, and just have it build and be able to tweak these to your heart's content. That's the ideal. It might be a little complicated to get there. Currently, it is very far from being there. This requires installing several things and setting up configuration files pointing to places on disk, building libraries individually, and a lot of complicated stuff that nobody but me knows how to do, and I haven't documented very thoroughly, and nobody but me would want to do, honestly. I'd like to save everybody else from that hassle. And anyway, yeah, and I just need to spend a little bit more time using this for more real purposes, like have a game that I'm working on, like Foresight Fight or something else. I'll talk about that in a second. And be in a situation where I'm like, okay, I have this effect in game that really needs a sound for it. And then from that, I'll come over to this program and start from, this thing and figure out what needs to be done to make that effect the way that I want it. I keep landing there. I'm sorry. I can't help it. And basically work the kinks out of the workflow like that, because I've been focusing on making the tool do things as described, but I need to use the tool and see where the pain points and rough edges are that I don't see while I'm working on it at the level of tool development. Like tool use needs to happen, especially for the music. I did it once for the composition and that I showed and made lots of changes due to that. I need to do the same thing here and just several more iterations of that. Then once all those things are done, it'll be in a good shape for release, maybe. And I'll have to figure out some other things about, like, what does it mean for me to release software these days? Where do I host it? On my own website? I can put this on, like, itch.io. Does that make sense for a productivity tool like this? Maybe it does. I don't actually have an itch page publicly. I have nothing that I wanted to post there. But that's a goal of mine in the near future. So let's talk about different future stuff. So again, this group project thing that I was going to participate in that didn't end up happening the way I expected, has sort of helped me refocus like where I need to be just for game development in general. I've figured out that... So yeah, I've been on this long detour from Foresight Fight, working on audio stuff, which is great. That's addressing one weakness that I had of that project. But a much more fundamental weakness that I'm running into, I'm realizing, is level design. Like, a puzzle game lives and dies by its puzzle design, and I have, like, some vague notes put together for how I want my Foresight Fight scenario, like the main scenario, to go. But all of my efforts to sit down and actually turn that into something real just haven't really gone anywhere. So a lot of the time I find with level design, I kind of have to just like set the conditions for inspiration to come and then just wait for it to arrive. And it hasn't quite arrived for that yet. Also, I don't have the preconditions set perfectly for that. I'm not like poking at it every day or anything. I've barely launched Foresight Fight like in the last couple of months because I've been so focused on this. But anyway, so like level design just as a discipline, I need to make more things in a variety of games. I messed around with some Super Mario World ROM hacking recently, which is a whole lot of fun. I've made a couple of Drod holds. I've done a lot of things, but I need to do more of those. Like, just get level design as a core discipline kind of drilled into my brain a bit more. And let's see, what else? So in terms of making sounds and music, this is getting exactly where I need to be. The tool is in a great place. Could be a little better, but it's in a great place to... and I can develop it to exactly where it needs to be. But again, I need to spend some time practicing that. In terms of graphics, I realized that like I'm pretty happy with where I am in terms of like skill and practice with that. I could draw more, but like whenever I sit down to actually draw something, I'm usually pretty happy with the results. But my tools for doing that are not great. I usually use GIMP for drawing things, which, I know how to use it, and it works. Oh, I have a second monitor connected, which is what makes this window huge, and then when I get to my document, it's going to be all confused about it. Not really. But, mostly focused on pixel art lately. And, I know all the keyboard shortcuts for, well, this computer is not really set up for this. This is not the one where I usually draw things. But, I know how to use the pencil tool. Right, okay, that's set to 3. I know how to use the tools, place pixels, erase pixels. I know the keyboard shortcuts and stuff. This is the wrong tool. I pressed the wrong key. No, I didn't. My key bindings are weird on this computer? Are they different from what I'm used to? What's eraser? Shift-E? Is that normal? Maybe it is. Maybe I don't know this as well as I thought. Anyway, but what I came to realize was like my actual workflow for doing this is not great. So I've shown this thing in Foresight Fight a few times. Hey, check it out. I'm opening this directory. Imagine that. This, doodles.xcf. Open. Yeah, just double click should work. It did. So my process is just to come over here, make a copy of this just in some space. I have this big doodle sheet where I just when I need to export an icon, I draw it in a space bounded by these rectangles, which has gotten real unwieldy at this point. Just select it with the rectangle tool, copy, Control-Shift-V to paste to a new document, then just export that as, okay, I got slightly too much there, whatever. Image, crop to selection. Export this at a place. Change my texture atlas JSON file to refer to that file. There are a lot of extra steps in there. It's very manual. It's kind of error prone and, well, just a little more labor intensive than I'd like. So I'm thinking what I really want to do, with this being in a pretty good place, is I want to start a new project. The thing I'm so good at, for pixel and tile editing that I would use as part of my workflow for all my graphical needs. So this would take care of my audio needs, then that other thing would take care of my graphical needs. And I already kind of understand what I would want for that. So I think that's another detour I might need to make for graphics tooling. And I have this idea in mind. I think that, so just thinking of setting up the preconditions for inspiration for level design. This would be more inspiration for game design, but I think it'd be super cool for me, a real healthy thing, to just sit down and design a tile set. Oh boy, okay, am I going to do this? I think I am. I want to show a couple of projects that I've never shown here. I'm not going to go into great detail about them because a lot of stuff's probably going to change. I hope this runs. So yeah, I plan to do this. This isn't quite spur of the moment. But yeah, I'm going to show... So this little thing I'm currently calling Raccoon Adventure. That's a very temporary name. Let's just call it Unnamed Animal Adventure Game, where you play as a raccoon. That's a much longer name. I should have this compiled here and it should run. So put together a little prototype. This is kind of Explorer-inspired a little bit. I can play as a raccoon here, wander around a forest. These are supposed to be leaves on the ground. Don't worry, they don't match the color of the leaves here. Trees in spring, ground in fall, whatever. But it was a whole lot of fun to put this little thing together, make the tile set for it, and I just found that incredibly inspiring. Once I sat down to draw these tiles, this is a shallow part of the water that I can cross. I can pick these berries. There's not much to this prototype. I can show the whole thing in 30 seconds. There's a few screens here. Rock is solid, can't walk through it. I can go to this island, but there's nothing there. And here's a chopped tree next to an axe. I can pick up the axe and go over here to this dead tree that was blocking the path. And since I have the axe in my inventory, I can chop it down and then go up here. But that's the whole thing. That's the entire prototype. So yeah, putting together the tile set for this and laying it down just made me have kind of an explosion of game ideas and game mechanic, gameplay ideas, world ideas for what I would want to do in things like that. So I want a tool to help me do this more easily than to have to come over to, let me see if I can look at my doodle sheet for this. I have one just like with Foresight Fight. Oh, I closed the application. Whoops. Let's open it up again. Yeah, similar format. Got a couple of things in here that didn't show up there. It's vines, stone, sand. This was going to be like where something was buried. You could get a shovel tool or something and dig it up maybe. Flowers. Anyway, yeah, so drawing this, huge amount of fun. Having a tool that would let me visually put together the tiles like this instead of, I think for this I know this is straying a long way from the AudioLab devlog, but like this has turned into kind of just a general what I'm doing with game development update at this point. This is where I'm putting that. Don't worry about it. Somewhere in here. Where's the is it room state? I have this just hard coded right now. It's not room state. What's the source file? Room graph? No, that's not going to be it. No, I don't want to share with Skype. Room state memory, room transition, room view. Is it just in main? Oh shoot, did I click share with Skype? Dang it! Go away, Skype. Why are you there? Go away, Skype. Why are you there? Really? I thought I disabled you. I totally disabled you. You came back. Why? Well, now I have to blur out a thing. That's super annoying. Anyway, where's my thing? Somewhere in here is a bunch of ASCII that represents the, let's see, is it game session? Where is this thing? Main screen? Here it is. Yeah, okay. So I just have an ASCII character per tile. Like this is the starting screen. This is the one that I'm on now. Yeah, so you can see the relation. I don't want to move this window. That's where I like it. So R for rock. Rock is there. Colon for leafy path, dot for grassy path, etc. So having an actual tool where I could visually put these tiles together and also edit them without having to open this program would help me a whole lot in figuring out game ideas for this. So this little project that I'm showing here was going to be my tiny little side project away from Foresight Fight that I'd spend like a couple of months on and release it, get a little bit of experience releasing a game in modernity, and know what I'm doing so that I can do it better for Foresight Fight, basically. Then this ballooned way out of scope. I have this long, complicated story with several different characters and like a lot going on in it written for this game. I'm not going to share that part today. It's still under development, but it's going to be like super cool when it comes through. So yeah, because the story ran away from me, I think it's super cool, but like the scope of this is now way too large for that. So let's show another project. This one has an actual name that I'm happy with. So this is called Order of the Moon. It also has a story that's much simpler. This started as the idea of, hey, I enjoy playing Zelda 2. What if I made a little Zelda 2 clone, basically, and then made it my own and turned it into a real game. This is going to be in like a weird place with it's just a test level. These are not, like, again, level design, not in a good place. But okay, so I play as a lion. I have a little sword. This is very, very Link and Zelda 2-esque controls. I had a lot of fun with the parry mechanic in Offspring Fling and Cyber Shadow, so I have it here. If I press up at the right time, right, it has early and late indicators. If I press it at the wrong time, it doesn't go and I take damage. There's my health. This is energy. Parrying generates energy, and I can use that to heal. So I have this little situation where I can put myself in danger and gain energy to get health back. These flower monsters don't really have a defense other than... So they'll shoot seeds just at a constant interval and then explode into petals once I take them down. And then this is just some fun stuff. There's a little springboard here. I can hit it from the side and it bounces me around. This is a checkpoint. Yeah, like this was supposed to be like the first tutorial level in here. All of this I'm sure is going to change. That's a switch. I didn't actually have to come here to do that because I put this shortcut in, but without that I'd have to go hit that switch, crawl through here, and you know, then this was where right, yeah, so checkpoint. So like if I were to die here, then it'll just reload. Whoops, I parried by accident. Then I'll just reload exactly where I was at the checkpoint. I can charge my attack. If I release that at the perfect time when the little indicator over my head is flashing, I actually get a stronger attack. So releasing at a specific time does 3 damage instead of 2 for charged, and it's just 1 for a normal stab. This is an extremely unfinished level select screen. This was the first test level I put together. It doesn't have a background, has some different enemies in it. This thing's basically there for farming parry energy. So just pressing right at the right time for that. Yeah, that one's too early. That one's too late. And then it's two heal bars maximum of energy right now. So if you're good at parrying, you can just regenerate health as much as you want like that. 5 is the max, I think. And then these are like Drod level clear gates, basically. So if I do a fully charged attack, the purple kind, I can take that thing out. This is ice, very slippery. Making all these character sprites and animations is a whole lot of fun. Surprisingly less work than I expected. Like, it was a bunch of work, but much less than I thought it would be. There's like, I don't know, 40 animation frames total for this or something. Spikes, spikes are spikes, slimes. Oh, I actually knocked that thing out of its little cage there. So anyway, yeah, I got this game. This prototype came together surprisingly quickly. Like, most of what you see was like 3 weeks of work or something. It was just like everything went incredibly well with it. This is test room. It says large room in text up there. Can't quite read the large part. And this is just for testing out platforming mechanics and stuff. Anyway, so I think this is a whole lot of fun. Just kind of put this together on the side. As I was working on Foresight Fight, like I would do this in the evenings, Foresight Fight in the mornings, and both of those projects just sort of got to a point where I was like, well, I've built these out to a decent amount. I'm not sure what I need to do next. That's all the game content that's there right now. And I have like these big complicated things written up for them. Yeah, so Foresight Fight, the Unnamed Raccoon Adventure, Order of the Moon, all have like, actually, I know much better what I'm doing with those two than what I'm doing with the main Foresight Fight scenario. And this was honestly kind of a lot more satisfying to work on. Like, it's an action game, sort of has more immediate rewards to it, and it shows better, I think. Like, this would be... It'd be more fun to show devlogs of this than Foresight Fight. Like, Foresight Fight is great. I'm definitely still totally committed to having it done. I think if I bump into these just right, I can parry them. Then they sort of wilt for a moment and then come back. And yeah, attacks generate 1 energy, parries generate 2. But parries are harder to do and more risky. Got to put yourself in danger for it. Anyway, so I love this game idea. But once again, it ballooned up in scope way beyond what I had originally planned for it. And it's not anymore appropriate as this little side thing I do beside Foresight Fight, to do a tiny little thing and release it and then get to get some finishing project practice. So I need something even smaller. So scope management, like, this is something I've done before. It's... Almost every game that I've released has been under a deadline. Oh dear, I'm going to go on the internet? What am I doing? So my website here has Water Tower Classic, Convergence, Memset 0x801 on the front pages. On the front page. These are the most finished of the games that I've played. Do I want to show these? I probably should. I can't run this. This is Mac only. I could run this. There are videos of these on my channel. You can find them if you want to see what they play like. This one I actually did while I was LPing, so I put up a video for it showing how it was. This was a little bit older. Anyway, yeah, so these... Everything that I've done that was... that I could call finished, at least in some way, was done by... under a Game Jam deadline. And I guess deadlines are surprisingly valuable for me. Like, that was the only way I was able to control my scope for, oh boy, sorry, I'm losing focus here. I've been going on for a while, but I had a lot to say. That was the only way I was able to control project scope for actually getting a thing done, I guess. So, like, I could figure out that if I change this thing, you know, if I make the story more complicated, if I add a whole bunch more levels to this thing, then it's just going to be impossible to get it done in the next however many weeks or months or whatever I had to work with. So I guess I need to apply a deadline for myself and like pick a timeline, choose a project that would fit perfectly in that. Basically, I need to do a game jam. I have problems with doing game jams that are like run by other people. It's hard to explain why, but like I need to run my own personal one-person game jam and get a game done under a tighter timeline. And this is why I feel like I need the tile editor, because that would be my source of inspiration. I want to just sit down with a graphics editor that works the way I want it to, be able to draw some tiles, put them together into something, and then figure out the game idea that I want to do of that, of the appropriate scope, and just make a thing. So like that's kind of what I'm thinking is in my immediate future. Like I'll work on AudioLab a bit more. I'll keep Foresight Fight basically like, you know, in a compiling state. Make sure I open it up occasionally and look at the editor and think like, do I have any inspiration today? Can I work on a level here? Or do I have inspiration to work on the rest of the program? Because I still have a mile-long to-do list on that I could be working on probably. And then, you know, there's Order of the Moon, there's the Unnamed Raccoon Adventure that I want to get done. There's a lot. So like that's a much more thorough look behind the scenes into what I have going on here. And it probably sounds ridiculous that I want to start, I guess, actually 2 new projects. I'm talking about this tile editor, and then from that, a small, like, jam-sized game that I want to make once I put together a tile set of some inspiration, like this raccoon thing that I was showing. But I think that makes sense, like, just for my personal, to match up with my personal goals. I think this is what I need to do. So yeah, that's kind of my plan. Let's see, did I have anything more to say about all these? I think I pretty thoroughly covered it. Yeah, okay. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of behind the scenes peek at like where I am with the projects I hadn't shown before. I'm just kind of like letting things happen as they happen. I have some more work to do on AudioLab. I guess like my hope would be the next, I guess I need to turn this into just like general what I'm doing in game development log. Like this isn't necessarily Foresight Fight, but it might sometimes be. This isn't necessarily AudioLab, but it might sometimes be. Just like what I've been working on. Be okay with my workflow of bouncing between projects, refocusing as necessary. And like next time I would expect to show an AudioLab that like has a lot of the last few features that I need done on it, and the beginnings of my tile editor for how that would be. Then like imagine 3 weeks from then I could show like a working tile editor, some little tile sets I'd made with it, and pick one as my inspiration for the game that I want to work on, a little tiny jam-sized game, and then like do, say, 3 devlogs for that, 9 weeks, 2 months and a bit. That's a reasonable development schedule. Yeah, so set a timeline like that, decide that's my deadline, get what I can do then, release that game, you know, set up like an itch.io page for it. I probably wouldn't want to put that one on Steam. Maybe I would, I don't know, it would depend. Like I'm imagining my full releases, you know, Foresight Fight, Order of the Moon, Raccoon Adventure thing, whenever those are ready. Like those are my big game projects that I want to like put everything into and have a really solid full-blown release of those. But this little jam thing would sort of be a half step in between, you know, a thing I could release, maybe charge money for, maybe not, maybe like put it on itch at like name your own price or something. You know, eventually just like as a matter of my course through life, I want to transition to doing this with for money somehow, sometime. But there's a lot to figure out in between, and I'm just trying to figure out what's a reasonable step. My cell phone is creating interference in my speakers. I don't know if you can hear it. It does that sometimes because I set it on top, and that's what it does. So if you heard a weird noise, that's what it was. All right, so guess I'm done spilling my heart out here. Everybody probably didn't expect this in the middle of AudioLab devlogs. I mean, I shouldn't. But I think it makes sense to put this all out in the open and like make a declaration of intent to myself and to the world of like what I want to do. And I know I'm being very non-committal about everything, but it's just I need to hedge my bets. I know I don't get everything done that I plan to do. So I have to investigate several different lines of like doing things until I find one that's going to work and really hone in on it. Like AudioLab, I'm like super happy with where that is as a project right now. This, as I mentioned, was kind of a dream project for me, and it is in such a good place right now. Just a little bit more, and this will just be like the perfect thing for me to make all of my sound effects and music and fulfill all my audio-related dreams. So I want that for graphics, then I want a little jam game, then I can think about these other projects that I'm also working on. So yeah, again, Foresight Fight is not on hold, it's just not being actively worked on right now. I'm kind of passively working on it, or indirectly working on it, doing other areas, improving myself to the point where I can get back to it and do the things I need to do with it. Anyway, so hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, I had a lot to say. And I'll see you next time with something. Hopefully better AudioLab, closer to release, and beginnings of Tile Editor, but we'll see what happens.